Howdy, folks. Oh, I got getting an echo there. Right off the bat, I heard myself reflects that. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day. I don't need to hear myself all, because I hear myself all the time. We'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Ross.
So, like some sports have too much money when there's players who are habitually hurt and they keep getting jobs. This is going to be a baseball one. Like Jay Bruce. Every team signs Jay Bruce. He starts great out of the gate. He's hitting 350 the first 2-3 weeks. He gets hurt. He comes back, and then he gets hurt. And before you know it, he's had 200 at-bats or less, and you didn't get much out of Jay Bruce. Now Felix Hernandez is hurt again. It's like
Jesus Christ.
He's not even old, but it's, again, guy, they keep signing him because he was great for 3 or 4 years. And, it's like, so let's see.
Matt Harvey is also on that Orioles rotation, and it's like, okay, what are you going to collect every guy who can't stay healthy?
Well, Harvey pitched well the other day, so that probably gets him to opening day now and at least a couple of starts on a bad team. But, yeah, I'm not sure what the Fernandez injury is. But, again, this is a guy, we had him on our fantasy team. He can't stay healthy anymore. I know his deal is not that much money, but still, it's like how many times you're gonna keep going there. And then I'm trying to think. There's another player who just had a throwing session the other day for the media. Can't think. No, a pitcher. A pitcher had a throwing session for the media recently.
No. Cespedes had a.
Cespedes. Sorry, yeah. So that's another one. Now, did anybody sign him yet?
No.
I kind of wonder if they're going to let him go like half a season, and then someone's going to sign him mid-season when they feel like they just need a power burst.
I think they're waiting until they find out whether the National League has a DH. Remember, there's still the possibility of them dropping that at the 11th hour.
How is that even possible?
Because it's Rob Manfred, because he's a friggin' okay. You know that.
I just don't understand how we can. I heard somebody drop that the other day, and it didn't even register with me that we could be a couple of weeks out of a season, and all of a sudden a big rule change could come in right before opening day. I don't think that's possible.
It's asinine. I mean, maybe the National League teams have been made aware of the possibility that that's the case, but I mean, we don't know that, and I don't see any great situation in terms of National League teams all of a sudden having a guy, sitting there that is capable of being a DH at the 11th hour. Normally, it's like the fourth outfielder or the backup first baseman or the backup catcher or something like that. We talked about the Mets, how they're situated where it would actually be a benefit to them if the DH actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if the LA Dodgers will be fine. They could DH Justin Turner and move Chris Taylor to third base and have Gavin Lux start every day at second.
Look, I mean, the Mets could DH J.D. Davis if they want, and they could put Guillorme at third, and I'd be happy. But I don't understand why you would do it now, because this week is when pitchers are going to start to hit in spring training to get sharp for the regular season.
Right. So okay, look, I don't know. It's unbelievable. And today is the day that we in the NFL, the free agents. This is the most ridiculous free agent period. It's like, okay,
it's awful.
Well, this is okay. 48 hours where it's a legal tampering zone.
Right.
You're hearing about trades and signings that can't legally take place because the player is on another team. Like, okay, Emmanuel Sanders is on the New Orleans Saints. He is supposed to be cut. Okay, until he gets cut, he's still property of the New Orleans Saints. And the rumor is he just signed a 1-year contract with the Bills. So how can that be the case until he's actually cut?
Because they just have this handshake agreement. So then when free agent frenzy opens, they've got 20 deals that they'll announce right off the bat.
Right.
But here's the reality. I'm going to tell you what the reality is of the NFL free agency. It's a farce. 90% of them go to teams that have a chance to win a Super Bowl. So you got 90% of them that are looking at 6 or 7 teams. The rest of them are fielding offers from all the other teams, like teams that I'm a fan of, like the Jets and all those other teams. And then they sit and they sort of wait and decide. And it's really infuriating because there's not that much of a chance for bottom level teams who are rebuilding to get top-notch free agents, even if you have the money. They don't even want to get overpaid anymore. They get paid so much money, they are willing to take less now.
Well, here's the farce of the NFL. And this is then we'll start the show because there's a lot to talk about. Here's the farce of the NFL. The fact that they don't have guaranteed contracts. They can move money around in the sense that Kansas City, they all of a sudden can open up $30 million of cap space by converting signing bonus into regular bonus and moving money different years for Kelsey and Mahomes and Jones.
Yeah.
Okay, so really the money is meaningless. The money in turn you can move.
Contracts are meaningless.
Right.
It's the money you get up front that means something.
Right, and it's the whole dead money versus live money, which is not a phrase that they use, but I'm just using it because they use dead money. But like that's not the case in the NBA.
No,
they have guaranteed contracts. That's not the case in Major League Baseball. You know, a guy like Jacoby Ellsbury, who played in 4 years, was still getting paid up until last year. And it's not the case in the NHL. The NHL's are contracts, even though, a player gets paid $13 million 1 year and $5 million the next year. I'm going to
tell you why.
It's amortized evenly.
It's because there's no fudging the cap in those leagues. Now, yes, you could play around with the LTIR, but there really is no fudging the cap. There is so much fudging of the cap in the NFL. It's ridiculous. And it goes back to the 49ers and it carries through to today. Eddie DeBarlo Jr. and that whole front office made a mockery of their cap. Remember that?
Yes.
And honestly, I feel like it's still going on, don't you, with teams like Kansas City and otherwise? It seems like it's still going on.
Yeah, I mean, with Kansas City especially, this latest thing. I mean, New England especially.
All of a sudden, New England's like, hey, look at all this money up to spend.
Yeah, I know. Somebody was pointing out that New England's odds to win the Super Bowl haven't gone up because even though they've added 2 of the best tight ends in the free agent class, and I think they added a receiver, the problem is that they still have the bad quarterback who can't hit the broad side of a barn. So unless they make a trade for somebody, if they have Cam Newton, who proved he could run last year but didn't prove much else.
Well, what if they draft a quarterback and use Cam?
That guy won't start.
No, but you didn't let me finish. What if they get this guy and this guy, gets some time and Cam gets in there as the Taysom, what's his last name? Hill of the Saints. Maybe they do that.
How did that work for Miami with Tua and Fitzpatrick? It didn't.
Not great.
All right, let's start the show.
I hope the Patriots shrivel up and die. Honestly, that whole franchise could fall into the water, and it wouldn't bother me one bit.
Drown in Boston Harbor along with the tea. A little bit of history there, Russ. Hello, hockey.
I knew you were going to go there. I left that open for you.
Hello, hockey world. Today is Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. Aaron Gobra.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology, and a happy birthday to my dad, who happens to be named Danny, but no, he is not Irish, but we've always had a fondness for the holiday because it's my dad's birthday. I'm
Michael O'Jello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast.
We are wearing green. We're both wearing green.
Yes, this is the only green shirt that I have. Everything else is blue or tan.
And gray.
Okay, great. Okay, let's start with the big news, which is not a shock because we've talked about it off and on. But Ralph Krueger was relieved of his duties as head coach of the Buffalo Sabres this morning, along with assistant coach Steve Smith. Interim coach will be Don Granato, along with Matt Ellis and Dan Girardi, who apparently don't have any professional coaching experience. I thought Ellis was an assistant with the Sabres this year.
I will tell you, Dan Girardi is a very worldly guy, though. I've had a lot of conversations with.
Oh. Russ, I lost your volume there for a sec. Check to see if you're muted. Restart, or go in and go back out. I'll fill. Okay, so yeah, Don Granato, and okay, you're muted now. There you go.
Now it got muted, but it wasn't. That was weird because it wasn't muted a minute ago. Anyhow, I was saying Dan Girardi is a pretty worldly guy. I do feel like he can teach people something. So that part I'm okay with.
I think the indication from Mike Harrington, who was just on Hockey Central, was that they think Girardi was brought in to sort of teach Rasmus Dahlin, who, by the way, is minus 27. I think it's the worst in the league, which is sad because I think he's a really good young defenseman. I think he's got a lot of talent. I just don't think he's been served right by this organization.
But if you think about Dan Girardi, right, he wasn't a high draft pick. This is a guy that worked himself into being an NHL defenseman. He blocked shots. He hit people. He even scored points for a while. There was a couple of seasons where he was getting points. He knows how to teach. I felt like he was the linchpin of the was that the Torts era? Was that the Torts? Yeah, Torts era defense. He was like the linchpin of it. And so if he could get some of that transferred to Dahlin, it's going to help. Imagine if Dan Girardi could skate like Dahlin, what he could have been like as a defenseman. I think he probably thinks that too. And so I think that's a smart move.
But just a quick overview of this. So Granato as the head coach, Girardi and Matt Ellis as the interim assistant coaches. Kevin Adams indicated in his media availability that he will begin his job search now, but didn't put a time frame on it, which, I mean, we're halfway into the season. If they can get somebody to come in as coach, I think they would. I think they would like to start sort of getting a new message out to these players. But I don't know how anxious a big-time head coach, if that's the direction they're going to go, is going to be willing to come in mid-season. Harrington pointed out, Russ, that Kevin Adams has a lot of connections to college hockey, and it's a potential that they could go down that road. To me, that's scary because, I mean, we've seen Hackstall, we've seen
Quinn. It hasn't been great lately. I agree with that. It hasn't been fantastic. So, we'll see what happens with that. I was going to mention about Granato. While he is a good guy, he had a championship since 2000 and that was with the Peoria Rivermen in the ECHL. Here's what he's done. With Worcester, he was out in the second round, lost in the qualifying round, lost in round one, lost in round two, out of the playoffs. With the Wolves, out of the playoffs. Then with the under 17 and 18 teams with the program, out of the playoffs, out of the playoffs, out of the playoffs. So he doesn't have a great winning track record. So I think he's okay for a temporary usage, but you can't go with him long term, only because they do need somebody to walk into that locker room who's had a real good history of winning. Don't you agree?
Yes. I mean, well, and okay.
That's what Krueger didn't have either.
No. Krueger had the one shortened season in Edmonton and Team Europe, and that's the funny thing. Everybody misread
Team won, but I don't even know.
Everybody misread the situation, Ross. It was like, I mean, his communication skills were talked about ad nauseum about, when he was in Edmonton and getting the most out of the team that was dysfunctional, but his communication skills really didn't matter here. Where, I mean, from the indications, the players didn't know what to do on the ice, didn't know where to go. They didn't have a structure, and that's a big part of winning. And Andrew in the chat is asking if Montgomery would be an option. I would doubt it.
Monty, I mean, look, he knows how to coach. At some point, there will be a redemption for him. I don't think it's now, though. I think it'll be in college again.
It's right. It's too soon after, the obvious travails that he had with his own personal life and getting his life back in order. Yeah, I think he'd probably be better fit in a college scenario. No, I mean, and this is the thing. I don't know, and it's going to come down to this. I don't know whether the Pagulas are going to be willing to spend the money, because you have right now Jason Botterill and Steve Greeley under contract for another year, so through next year. And now you add Krueger, who's making $3.75 million, for until next season. So through next season. So now you're going to be adding a new head coach, and do you want to spend, $4 million on Gerard Gallant or $5 million on Mike Babcock? I don't think that first of all, I don't think they're going to go in the direction of Babcock because he left him at the altar 6 years ago, and they're not going to go back for another serving of crap. I do think though this team needs more of a authoritarian coach, which would lean toward Boudreaux or Tortorella if he's on the market. But I don't know whether either one would take the job.
I'll tell you who I would, if I was going to dip into the college pool, I would go Ted Donato, who's been with Harvard forever, simply because I've witnessed him.
What about Tony Granato? You have the Granato brothers here because
I know, but Ted Donato hasn't gotten a shot.
Sure.
And Ted Donato knows how to bring people in. He has been doing some of the best recruiting in college hockey, considering now Harvard, yes, there's a lot of smart people to choose from, but then when you have to get somebody smart and can play hockey, that becomes a lot harder. And again, they can't offer the same things other universities can with their deals. They're very minimized deals compared to like the big universities that give the full free ride, right? So he has been able to pull off some amazing things. You can go look at players all around the league like Adam Fox, Jimmy Vesey, who just got picked up today. A lot of players. He's graduated a lot of players. Obviously, his son.
Alex Kerfoot.
Yep, Alex Kerfoot. He and especially in the last 5 years, I mean, there was the 1 year they got pretty far. He had an 806 winning percentage. And that was back in 17. He missed a year now. I feel like if someone like the Sabres came calling, Harvard wouldn't step in the way. I think you could offer him half of what you would offer a regular coach, and I think he might take it because he hasn't coached in a year.
Well, okay, and again, I think it was a cumulative effect of reasons why Krueger was finally fired this morning. But these could be individual things, could be factors. One, yesterday in the game against New Jersey. New Jersey had lost 11 games at home in a row. The Sabres had lost 11 games in a row, period. It was a close game in the third period, 3-2. Sabres were pressing for the tying goal, and New Jersey's players had been out there for over 2 minutes, and there was an icing with 33 seconds left to go in the third period. Krueger takes a timeout. He gives New Jersey a rest, and he justified it at the end of the game and the media availability after the game by saying, well, he wanted to keep his number one guys out there. Now, his number one guys were Stahl and Hall and Olofsson. They didn't play particularly well last night. Their best line, which was fresh on the bench, was Jeff Skinner, Casey Middlestat, and Curtis Lazar. And I just am struck by the fact that the best line performing last night was the one with Jeff Skinner on it, and he did not want to put it out there, and he did a stupid tactic of taking a timeout with 33 seconds. After the game, Brandon Montour basically said the players, or at least he said for himself, we're sort of waiting for something to happen, meaning I think they realized that he was going to get fired, so they were just sort of biding their time waiting for him to get fired. That was another probably factor. This is the most interesting one, and Kevin Adams shot it down big time in the media availability, which in my mind means it's absolutely true. The next couple games the Sabres play are at home, and they're the first games with fans. If you don't think fans with Ralph Krueger coaching the Sabres, who have lost 12 games in a row, weren't going to come in there throwing rotten cabbage and fruit and vegetables, you're wrong. Because
we just talked about it yesterday. Remember I said it was going to start to be a big problem once the fans are in the building. That's exactly what I said yesterday. And obviously the Sabres felt that way too. I just didn't know what they were waiting for because they should have done it 2 weeks ago, but they waited. So
I think they were waiting, Russ. I think they hoped that it could be turned around a little bit, that they could get through the rest of the season and then fire him the day after the season ended.
Relieve him of his duties, Mike. Be nice.
Yeah, excuse me. Fired is politically incorrect. No, he was fired. Sorry. But they were hoping to sneak through the rest of the year because it's going to happen over the next 3.5 weeks. Slowly, ever so slowly, the rental players, the Taylor Halls, the Brandon Montours, if anybody's stupid enough to trade for Carter Hutton, Eric Stahl, those guys will be moved.
Yep.
And no, Cameron, they will not go to the Anchor Bar for wings. So this is going to, and
you can't say that. You don't know if Don Granato likes them or not. You don't know.
Well, if Don Granato has had his health issues, and if he
don't go there, Mike. Just go on to something else. Just please.
If he values his life, he's not going to go to the Anchor Bar. Okay, so all right. So I'm sure we'll touch on the Sabres when Eck joins us in a few minutes. But
well, let's the only thing I'm going to touch on, because we may not get into it, is right now I want to pull up as many guys from Rochester as I can. Now, you had told me that, hey, they were under quarantine, so I get it. But I want the Jacob Brysons to get meaningful roles. I want
Fitzgerald.
Yeah, Casey Fitzgerald. Hey, Stephen Fogarty had a few moments with the Rangers. Bring him up. You might as well look at him and just see, because he is a big guy.
I think these guys will get opportunities as the veterans get moved, because Adam said that he is hopeful that Jack Eichel will be back at some point. But we know they're going to trade the players I just mentioned, maybe to trade a Tobias Reeder because they could get value for him because he's having a decent year. And he's a $700,000 minimum contract, so they might be able to get a draft pick for him. Adams also said he's going to hire an assistant GM, which is unbelievable because until a couple weeks ago, I didn't realize they didn't have any assistant GMs.
No, I know, and which is crazy. But now they say they're going to hire one. It's like, why aren't you hiring two?
Because they don't want to spend money on two.
Right. Okay. So why hasn't Aspen played more than 3 games in Rochester? Has he had COVID?
No, he's been on the taxi squad.
Oh, he's on the taxi squad. He's another one that should be playing. And I'm going to give you another name, Mike, that's probably not getting talked about in your market, but they have Michael Mersch. And this guy can skate and he has moves. He's been great at the AHL level, and he's never really gotten a chance. He had the 17-game stretch with the Kings, but that's it at the NHL level. I saw him in Wisconsin. I saw him even before that. There's something there, and right now he's 28. This is the perfect time to throw him in there because he's got points in 9 games there, and just see, because what if Mersch can start scoring at the NHL level? You didn't even know. You could go the whole season and never know that. I want to know these things now if I work for the Sabres, but I don't. So.
Elliot Friedman reporting that on a conference call, he said that Kevin Adams, like I just said, said he was going to add a GM. Word is the Sabres have permission.
GM. He is the GM.
Assistant. Yeah, so I said assistant GM.
No, you said GM. I just don't want to confuse people.
No, okay. I meant assistant GM if I didn't say that.
Yeah.
But word is the Sabres have permission to speak to Jason Karmanos. Okay. I'll let that hang.
What do you want me to say?
Yeah, he and Adams have a long history. That's
no kidding. No kidding. Because that dear old dad owned the Hurricanes, right?
Yes. And he also has a history. He also has a history with Jim Rutherford, but apparently they don't want to go down the road of a senior advisor. Now, okay, Karmanos has a history with Rutherford through Pittsburgh. Rutherford hired him.
How about this? Don't bring in somebody that knows somebody. Bring in a fresh set of eyes. That's what you need. You at this point, I don't want to bring in somebody. If this is me, and I've hired before in the corporate world, I don't want to bring in any familiar with anybody. I need a fresh set of eyes in there. And Granato's not a fresh set of eyes either because he has been there. They need someone to walk in completely out of their territory, somebody that has never worked with any of them, and get real answers to their real problems. That's what they need.
This is going down the same road that the Sabres have gone in the Pagula era. They're going with the Pittsburgh connection. I call it the Pittsburgh Mafia. Ted Black, Jason Botterill. Who else was it? There was another manager. Not Tim Murray wasn't Pittsburgh connected, but
No.
But there were others assistants in the organization that were attached to Pittsburgh. They keep going to the Penguins. I mean, I don't get it, but anyway. All right. Bad news from the Islanders came out this morning. I mean, we knew that Anders Lee was going to be out long term. The announcement came out that Anders Lee will be out the rest of the season. That means season and playoffs.
Right.
It was an ACL injury, so he's going to have surgery immediately so that he can possibly return as early as September or October for next season. He makes $7 million. He's their team captain. Okay, again, Russ, this is a team. I understand they have a defensive structure under Barry Trotz, but they're getting perilously close to the Barry Trotz formula in Nashville, where they didn't have enough scoring to win. And unless Trader Lou comes out and makes some sort of deal before the deadline, which he can now because he's got $7 million in LTI room, I don't think the Islanders are going to go deep in the playoffs. So I think Lou is going to have to go out there and get offense.
No, I think he will. And like I said, I think they're not going to trade Wahlstrom. I know people are throwing him in deals. They're not going to trade him. They need him now. Maybe they would trade Bellows, who they've been showing off pretty good. He could be part of a deal so you could upgrade in the offensive position. That's what they're going to have to do. And you know what? I'm not calling this team dead yet. I know that that's the knee-jerk reaction, but they still have the best goaltending tandem in the league, and they still have really good defense. So, yeah, they'll have to give up half a goal a game less until they can get some offensive help. But I do think that offensive help will come. I do. And even if you have to trade someone like Bodie Wild in this deal, then you trade him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're dead. Okay, I only think they're dead if they don't add. If they add and replace the offense, then I think they have a chance to come out of that division. But if they just stand pat, I think they're dead. I don't think they have enough offense. They can maybe win a round, but I don't think they'll get past Washington or Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or Boston. Yeah. They may win one on. They will not go. They will not get out of that division. So I mean, now, if they're interested in Cal Palmieri, they're not going to give up one of those young guys for a rent. This is where Lou can pay off because Lou is an experienced guy who knows where to go, who knows where the bodies are buried, so to speak, and he can get good deals at the deadline. Hopefully, it's not on the level of a second-round pick for Thomas Buchanitz, but it could be something where he gets. Now, I think there's something to the Taylor Hall stuff. Taylor Hall would be a good.
I think so, but he got hit in the face yesterday, so
no, he came back.
Oh, he did come back in that game.
Back in the game, yeah.
Okay.
So I think that would be a fit, but there are other rental wingers out there or centers if they want to go that direction. That the Islanders, I think they have enough prospects in the organization, and they have enough cap space now with Lee going on long-term injury that they can make that move.
Yeah, I think they can get away with it. I think if you want to try bringing over Golashev, fine. I think you should try all of these things. I do, because I think they have enough time right now where they can mess around these things. Holmstrom's got 4 points in 9 games. He's a little weak physically, but he could skate. Maybe you even need to bring him up too and just see. I want to just get an idea of where these guys are at. Because, again, with this organization, they tended to wait on guys and let them over-ripen. But, for a couple games, just see what you have. I think it's going to be hard for Lou to make a deal, and it's not going to happen quickly. So I think until then, instead of just, totally clamping down all the hatches, try some of the young guys you have and just see.
They may give them some look, and Esmir. I was going to go down that road and say bring up Josh Hosang. That's not happening.
That's not happening.
No, but I do think that they'll look interior, but I think there are more sellers than there are buyers, and Lou can probably find a bargain and not give up significant assets to get a guy who fits in. They just need something like, I'm honestly, Lee is a 25 to 30 goal scorer in a regular season. I don't know whether they'll go on down the Zach Parise road again, but they have the cap space this year to do it.
I don't think they would do it now.
I don't think. Yeah, I think he's starting to show his age.
Last year he was still like
viable,
coming hot and viable. I don't think you do it now.
And just to give Dust on Sidewalk in the chat a quick reminder, the reason why I trashed Plekanec is because he was over the hill when the Leafs traded for him. The Leafs were not a serious Stanley Cup contender. They gave him a second-round pick for him. He was for a fourth-line center, and when Kadri got suspended, he moved up and played in an offensive position and actually played okay, but it was a bad trade because the guy was over the hill, and it was, they weren't going to win. So it was stupid to give up a second-round pick for a rental.
Yeah, to answer Zach, Zajak's not going to do it. There is another kid that the Islanders have in the minors who I love, and he is 21, so he's a little bit older in Cole Koski, but he's only played 4 games for Bridgeport. That's a guy, I'm telling you, there's a lot of offense in his game. But again, I just don't think Trotz would do it. And that's where you have something's going to have to give here. And this is where maybe Lou trades in state or in division or something for a UFA, and so he can get the guy quickly. He needs someone quickly.
Yeah, and that's why everybody's attaching Paul Mary to the situation. But the problem with Paul Mary is that New Jersey wants to keep him and will make them pay. Now, they didn't pay full value for Andy Green last year when they traded for him. But I think the management situation is a little different now in New Jersey than it was then. So I don't know whether they're going to be anxious to give up, just give up Paul Mary and get a second-round pick for him. I think it's going to cost a lot more. I think Lou will find somebody, but I think he's got to find somebody. He cannot just stay. They can explore all the interior moves that they want, Russ, unless somebody just like jumps out and is like lightning in a bottle. I just can't see anybody filling in the offense that Anders Lee provides. So.
No, but here's a cost-cutting move. Maybe you call the Rangers and say, hey, eat some of Brendan Smith's salary, and we'll take him and try and use him as a forward. He did play a little bit as a forward. He's at least physical and sometimes gets these occasional weird goals. Like maybe they just do that and try and, toughen up their game, and maybe that opens it up for some of their other scorers. They're going to have to look at some weird things like that just to get someone in the lineup quickly, I think.
Yeah. Now, looking at some of the games last night, besides the Devils and the Sabres, Capitals beat the Islanders 3-1. I watched a little bit of the Penguins-Bruins game and the big.
We got to mention Ovechkin. I mean, he passed.
Well, we mentioned it yesterday. We mentioned him yesterday.
Yeah, we did. That's right. That's fine.
Yeah. So I just. But the big moment in the Bruins-Penguins game was the Brandon Tanev hit on Jared Tenorti, where he hit him, I would say, about 6 or 7 feet away from the boards, and it was a hit of enough momentum that it knocked Tenorti into the boards.
Who is a big guy?
So it was a good. And hey, Tanev is not a massive guy, so he just caught him good, and he slammed him against the boards. But most people think it was a clean check, and Tanev got a 5 in a game. And I know Brian Burke was.
He has a reputation. We have to remember that.
Tanev?
Yeah.
Yes. No,
and that's what, even if we think it's clean, I think that's part of what happens here,
Yeah. I think we've seen that with Tom Wilson. I mean, obviously the reputation speaks for itself. When a player of that reputation does something, it's going to get called out a lot more than.
All right, I'm going to tell you, I just saw the hit. Even though I was watching part of that game, I didn't see it. When you see it in slow motion, he does hit the shoulder first, but that's not the issue. He pushes him, and when he pushes him, he goes another 3-4 feet, and the head goes right into the wall. He didn't need to do that. I think that's why he got it.
Right. I mean, but a lot of people thought it was clean, and if it's not clean, then is it a 5?
It's definitely a 5 because he pushed him into the wall. After what we call as a clean hit, if you watch it, he extends his arms and pushes him, and that's when he goes into the wall and his head hits into the wall. That didn't happen just from the hit.
Right.
That was from that extra push, and that's where I would give it to him. But we got to talk about Dan Vladar because Vladar gets his first NHL start, and he looked really good. Here's the thing about Vladar. A lot of teams wanted him in his draft year. I forget whether they spent a second or a third. I'm thinking a second, but I'm not sure on him. But he was widely sought after because I think he's around 6'3", right? Something like that. And he's a good positional goalie. He is like what a lot of teams want because he doesn't make a lot of extra movements. He's safe with the stick. He doesn't give up too many rebounds, and he's got a good glove. But he's not one of those guys that's super athletic, but teams don't want that anymore. They like the positional goalies.
He's 6'5".
He is 6'5". Okay, so he's even bigger than I thought.
6'5", 185, third-round pick in the 2015.
He's a third rounder. Yeah, so think about that. Like, if the Bruins picked him with a third-round pick, that tells you that other teams wanted him. I remember the Flyers had interest in him. There were probably 3 or 4 other teams that had interest in him, and that's why they picked him in the third. He's good, man. This is a guy who I think will be their backup next year, regardless of what happens with that goaltending situation.
Now, I believe he has to be protected, but the thing is that because he's 23 years old, so he's been a pro longer than a few years, and I think he does not qualify for the exemption. The one thing though is
he doesn't qualify for what?
The exemption.
So you think he can be in the expansion draft?
Yes, if they don't protect him, but both
they don't protect him. Okay.
Both Rask and Halak are UFA.
Right, so they
can protect Vladar,
right, and not worry about the rest.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but I mean, this is a guy. I mean, he's played for Providence in parts of 5 seasons, and the last couple years has played pretty well with Providence. So
he's played well, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this might be the sort of the developmental model that finally they're bringing up this goaltender, and maybe he's the starter of the future. You never know.
He could be. I think when people were writing about Jeremy Swayman, we have to remember Jeremy Swayman doesn't have as many. At least I don't believe he does as many games in. I'm going to look it up in pro hockey. He was really great in college, but he doesn't have as many games in as pro hockey as Vladar. No, he's got 7. So, like, for people, just because he looks great in 7 games, why in the world would the Bruins bring him up when they're losing? A guy with 7 games. No, you would bring up Vladar because he has the most experience of the young goalies. That makes sense.
Yeah. Other games last night, Minnesota beats Arizona 3-0. Capo Kakkonen with a shutout. Minnesota remains red hot. I mean, Russ, again, this is a team we didn't expect to do this, but they are.
Yeah, but we didn't know Kakkonen was going to be the goalie either. Like, we all liked him.
Right.
I'm telling you, he is still very unorthodox. I'm not skeptical because I do think he played one goal a year in the AHL. But what I'm skeptical of is this just a red hot streak of his? We don't know. Like, we don't know what's going to happen when he loses a few. That's right. What we have to sort of see. But again, Kirill Kaprizov has ignited Matt Zuccarello. Ignited him. Zuccarello looks as good as he's ever looked in the NHL right now, and he's going to have a career year as a result.
And the lucky guy on that line is Victor Rask, who's playing center between the two. I mean, all you needed was to put him with a star, and Rask is like now all of a sudden, Rask is
everybody's saying, yeah, Victor Rask looks good again. But I mean, again, we have to be fair and just say how great Kaprizov is, or Kaprizov. I say both. We have to talk about how great he is.
It's a no doubter now, an absolute no friggin' doubter that he's winning Rookie of the Year. I mean, to
Right.
me,
He would have to be out for weeks.
right. I think even if a season ended tomorrow, he would be Rookie of the Year.
He probably would. I mean, it really look, and again, I appreciate the pat on the back from the chat room, because yes, I have brought him up for at least 2-3 years on this show in conversations when we talk about what could be a big pickup for them. And it finally happened, and it was a big pickup for them. It's the biggest pickup they could have had, honestly. And it's one of the biggest pickups anybody in the league could have had.
Yeah. No, you're right. And
it's not your regular rookie. It's not your ordinary rookie.
But everything is coming together at one point. We talked about this with Minnesota. Jordan Greenway. There was talk about Jordan Greenway being traded last year. Like a big body guy, finally sort of found himself. Eriksson Ek is playing well. They're just a complete team right now. Now, one of the things that I will
say this though. One thing, Mike, because Davy Jones says Kakkonen Rookie of the Year. I'll tell you why he won't win it. He won't win it because of Kaprizov, because everybody could see the difference in this team, even with Cam Talbot in net with Kaprizov. That's when they started winning games. So, unfortunately, Kakkonen gets muted out there because of what Kaprizov has done to fire start this team. That's what I think.
Now, on the waiver wire today, a couple interesting moves. Ottawa claims Anton Forsberg, who's he's been with more teams than Walt McKechnie. It's
not that Mike Sillinger yet, though. He's not in Sillinger territory.
Walt McKechnie was with 9 teams. I think Sillinger was in double digits.
Yeah, he was in double digits.
The other one was Jimmy Vesey, who was placed on waivers yesterday, claimed by Vancouver.
I like this pickup. I do.
Yeah, I like Jimmy Vesey, but the issue in Toronto is a numbers issue. Kyle Dubas mentioned when he had his.
He wasn't getting enough ice time.
Well, he mentioned in his press availability yesterday that VC was more victim of the fact that they had to take Jack Campbell off of LTIR. But Russ, he was very spotty in terms of when he was on. He scored like 2 goals in his first 3 or 4 games. Then he scored 3 goals in 3 games, and there was 18 games in between where he scored nothing.
Sure, but they got his ice time. He's only averaging 11 minutes of ice time for the year.
He was he was on the second line, then he was mostly on the fourth line, and he could never move up from the fourth line because he just really didn't show much.
I think if you put him in a different situation, you give him 15 minutes a game, he'll show more. I don't think he'll look. I think the 17 goals he got in those 2 seasons with the Rangers were a zenith. I told people that at the time, but I do think he can get back to like 12, 13 goals, and he's got 5. And so, I think he can do that.
Now, and I hope he gets top 9 ice time in Vancouver, but
Me too.
Obviously that didn't pan out for him in Toronto. Now,
I'm not blaming Toronto.
Yeah. Now, what the interesting thing is today at their morning skate, you had playing on the left wing with John Tavares and William Nylander, somebody by the name of Alex Galchenyuk. So they've called up Galchenyuk after 5 games. I think it was with the Marlies. He had over a point per game. From all reports, he had played well down there. They're going to give him a shot there. I think I don't know whether that he's going to play there, for longer than a game or 2. But I think they're giving him an opportunity to see what happens.
They're showcasing him for themselves because that's the best possible situation you could put him in.
Right. But I still think, based on what Dubas said yesterday, that they're going to be going out in the market and making a deal. And Wayne Simmons was also back playing for the first time since he broke his wrist in early February. So he probably will be back, if not on Friday when they play Calgary, then maybe in a couple games after that. And we'll see if Jack Campbell is back because they're playing back-to-back nights against Calgary. The other thing is that I see in the chat people were talking about the Leafs and Dubas's statement about them trading a top prospect. Pierre LeBrun reported, yes, they're going to trade a top prospect, but not a top prospect named Rasmus Sandin. That they will not. And here's the reason why. Because after next year, Morgan Rielly is an unrestricted free agent. If they can't re-sign Morgan Rielly, a young guy like Sandin is probably going to have to replace him in the top 4. they don't have any plan. Like they have Liljegren. I think Liljegren is the guy that they might trade in a deal at the deadline.
I think they will, and I think they'll be upset after the fact. I do. I think he'll do well.
You have to give up something to get something. I mean, if they get good value back,
but they never gave him a chance. Is my point ever?
I know, and that I don't understand. But maybe that you got to remember again. I've been saying this. He was a Mark Hunter draft pick, and everybody.
I know, but it's not like this organization's defense is so good that he couldn't have gotten a look at some point.
They did get a look last year in 11 games, and he didn't impress them. But they do realize that he's improved each year, and I do think he's an NHL defenseman. I just think if a team is looking for a defenseman, they're not going to give up Sandin. No. They're probably going to give up Liljegren, and I don't think that they will give up Nick Robertson. But
no, they're not giving up Nick Robertson.
Yeah, but I mean, we'll take a couple questions in the chat here. Let me see if we got some. And
I don't think they give up Amirov either, in case someone's going to scroll that down.
No, I mean, I think what Dubas means by, I mean, let's say this: if they get a deal that blows them away, then they might give up one of those top prospects. Not Sandino. I don't think they're giving them up for anybody. If they get Philip Forsberg and
sure, then you might have to give up Amirov.
And Nashville eats half the salary, then yes, you're going to have to give up the prospect. Let's see here. Galchenyuk is a mess. Thank you for the Swedish Sillinger. Okay. Questions. Come on. Gardner cleared waivers, my guess. Yes, he did. And mostly because of $4.05 million. See,
the teams desperately need a defenseman, and if he were $1 million defenseman, he would have been claimed.
Okay, good. Here's a good one. Yeah. I haven't heard this, but I don't find it tough to believe. Columbus shopping Max Domi. Thoughts? My thoughts are Columbus was stupid to give him a 2-year extension. That's my thought. I mean, I think Max Domi. First of all, Max Domi could be the Ville Lano of 2021. They traded for him to make him a center, and I think it's proven that he's not a center. I know.
He got paid on the basis of him being a center. If I'm a team and the deal is right money-wise, I'm happy to take Max Domi. The guy can play, and he could skate, and he might infuse a little bit of just, extra obnoxiousness in your locker room in a good way. I think teams will be interested in him, but it all depends. What's his salary?
Max, 5.3, I believe.
No, see, that's too high.
Yeah, I mean, and is Columbus in a position to eat money?
They're going to have to eat money, or he's not going anywhere.
Okay, a 5.3 this year and next year.
Yeah, he's not getting traded unless somebody's trading. Like if Columbus wants to do Domi for Gostisbehere for some reason, and then it's a trade. That's a trade that could happen.
Hi guys.
Hey. Yeah, it would be a crap for crap deal, and I'm not saying Domi is crap, but when you have term like that, you're only going to be able to trade a guy like that for a guy who has equal term. So if there's another player with another year left in his contract, now Gostisbehere's got 3 years left? I think it's 2 years.
I am going to answer one question, then I can go on with his stuff. Because someone's asking my opinion on Kravtsov finishing the KHL season. It's over. He's here in the States. He is going to go to Hartford first. They're going to ease him in, plus they have to figure out some cap things to be able to call him up. So he'll get a call up in 3 weeks, something like that, and they'll see what they have. He had a good year. He did mainly goal scoring. He wasn't enough of a playmaker there, but that's okay. I think he matured, and I think that was the big thing, is he needed to mature as a person. So if that happened, then he'll be on the right track.
Hey guys, thanks. Hey. Thanks. Sorry, just a lot bad stuff happening here, but we're doing our best. I wanted to get on today to do a quick hit because there's a couple things are happening here that I've been chasing around. First off, the one is it looks like Boston is I wouldn't be shocked if Boston and Ekholm happens today. Honestly, just hearing it, Boston's really getting close to something. Apparently,
That's a big blow for the Flyers if that happens.
If that happens, they are a desperate team as well. Boston has been tumbling, and they're also you're getting definitely a instance where their defense is hurt. They've got a lot of guys hurt, so apparently.
Well, okay, can we say Jake DeBrusk in a number 1 would be enough?
Yeah, that would be enough.
Because I think that's realistic.
Yeah, I think it's realistic, and for whatever reason, DeBrusk is not in their long-term plans. That seems pretty obvious. So I do think that could happen. If this happens, I know we've talked about Savard, but that's going to be a high price too. But if Fletcher loses out on Ekholm, boy, it doesn't look good for the Flyers getting exactly what they need unless they get Savard. Then they've got to really overpay. If Boston gets Ekholm, really has to overpay for Savard, or they're not getting anybody of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And this is, I think really it comes down to what we're going to see right now. We're going to see who's more desperate in terms of making the playoffs. Who really wants to make the playoffs? It's Boston and Philly, 4 or 5 right now. They're in the 4 and 5 spots. Both need defense. Both need help. Who's desperate to make the deal?
And the cap hit. If it is DeBrusk, the cap hit is almost the same. They're both a little under $4 million. DeBrusk has a year left before he's an RFA. Ekholm has a year left before he's a UFA. It almost fits perfect. If Boston gives up a first-round pick and maybe another prospect or a lower pick, that's almost a perfect fit. If they make that deal, I'm almost sure it's DeBrusk.
Yeah, it would have to be. I mean, DeBrusk is he's a good middle of the road guy for that kind of deal for sure.
And he can score. He can score 20 goals. We know he has. So
it would be a lot like what they lost in Craig Smith, goal production wise.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. Winnipeg's also in on a couple different guys as far as defense go that I've been chasing down today as I've been trying to get the rumor chart finished. Right. I was up most of the night, so I didn't sleep. So a little delirious there.
Sleep? Come on.
Who needs sleep right at this time of year? We'll get there. But they also are Manson. We talked about Manson. That's a possibility for the Jets. Sounds like
he'd be a great fit for the Jets.
They're really looking at. Yeah, I think they like him a lot.
Wrong side, but yeah.
I mean, again, sometimes you have to get over the wrong side thing. Someone could possibly move somewhere on that team, Mike.
Some coaches are slaves to that. I mean,
listen, I can't tell you how many times Torts had guys move sides. I can't tell you.
They're weak on the left side.
Yeah.
That's why Ekholm fits Winnipeg, but they may not want to pay the price that is necessary. Now,
Devin never wants to pay.
I don't think they do. The other thing that's big out there is the general surprise. The amount of people who talked to me today about Dubas's press conference yesterday, Mike, is really interesting. That definitely has surprised people. Because basically they've always seen him as like a really conservative guy, never to say anything along the lines of what he said yesterday,
right.
Where he sounds more like, he's the last guy I'd ever expect to say that we're willing to trade, something as a rental to make something happen now. We've never seen him in that position before. And I think for him, it's a relief to be able to say that. And this is what I talked to one guy who knows him pretty well, who's pretty close to him. And he said that he really thinks that this is kind of a relief for him because he said for every trade deadline, Dubas sits there and, he's getting ripped apart for not doing anything. This trade deadline, he get a chance to actually do something, and I think he's going to take advantage of it.
Well, I think it's the fact that he believes that the team is, that they are a serious contender. They have an opportunity to get to the conference final. If they get through the North Division, and you don't have to face Tampa, you don't have to face Boston.
Right.
That, if they add a player of significance at the deadline, that they could get through the North. Now, cap is going to be a consideration. The reason he said he would go for rentals is the expansion draft and the realities of the fact that if he trades for somebody who's got term, then he's got a budget for that guy for future years, and they want to re-sign Hyman, and they want to re-sign Riley, and they might want to re-sign Anderson. So
right.
You're not going to take on a guy, even though Philip Forsberg is a great player. You're not going to take a guy like Philip Forsberg on unless you're planning on trading Kerfoot or trading Nylander to equal out the cap space. So
I'll tell you why.
I was told a Nylander for Forsberg deal was possible, but turned down by the Predators a little while ago. I think
I would turn it down too because Forsberg.
Interesting trade, yeah, but I think Forsberg's better than Nylander.
He's better.
Forsberg's more consistent than Nylander. Nylander right now is playing great. This is the Nylander that everybody wants.
Nylander's upside might be just as high as Forsberg's upside, but I think Forsberg is higher more often than
you get it for 25 games instead of 82.
Nylander is. Yeah, I think that is the big difference.
Now, the other thing is because people in the chat were talking about this.
Yeah.
His willingness to trade top. He said, I'm willing to trade top prospects. He answered yes.
Yeah.
He didn't specify which ones. He's not going to, but
that's a big thing for him to answer. And that was something that was mentioned to me a lot in the call too, Mike. It's just like that they're like sitting there saying, okay, he has always been the, there's going to be more pain before things get better guy, and that's
he's willing to go all in this year.
And obviously he's got, a top team in the league. So it's a different scenario than he's ever been in before. So, there's no way he can be the pain now guy, but the reality is that he is willing to go all in. He does see, I think, the North Division as being the easiest division the Leafs are going to be in for a while. I mean, it's going to get harder next year when they get back. Cause when you look back at the Leafs regular division, you have to look, Tampa's still there. Florida is a better team now. It's going to, you have to figure some of this. Ottawa's going to get better.
But it's also this, Zach.
Yeah.
Spezza, Thornton.
Yeah, for sure.
Hyman, Bogosian, Simmons, Anderson. What do they all have in common? Their contracts are up after this year. It's an all-in situation. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to mortgage everything in terms of the future, but they see an opportunity here. And what I'm wondering is are they prepared to go money in, money out to make a deal that it's an impactful deal? Meaning, are they willing to trade a Kerfoot or trade? And I get the impression from what I saw from Kyle Dubas that the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think it is too. And I think that's the impression that people are getting. And I'm not so sure that. I mean, it's hard to say. I really think Kerfoot is what they need mostly, but I don't think they can get it. If they could get it, if they were making a trade, they'd be making a trade for a player like Kerfoot in my mind. So it's like, why would you be moving Kerfoot if they can find another way to get it done? I think that's a better option.
Heck, I'll tell you why I think Dubas spoke in greater terms is because A, there's a little bit more pressure on them because they know what kind of team they have. B, they're in first place and it's slipping a little bit, and so that won't look good if not only if the Leafs slip out of first, but like got knocked out in the first round because he didn't do anything. So I think there is a lot of pressure on him to do something.
Right. I also heard and I'll be bringing about this too in the rumor chart. So I'm just gonna throw a bunch of rumors at you guys because that's what I've been doing is Brandon Montour in Montreal. And I could see that as well. It's another interesting fit.
I don't know why they would do it. He's just another puck-moving defenseman. I mean, it's like they have those. He's not what he used to be.
They really don't like Victor Mete.
I get that.
And they're trying, and everyone's like, oh yeah, Mete is a player, and he hasn't even got a chance to play. They're okay with that, like. The reality is, I mean, I think Mete has been rushed, and I think he has
been rushed. There's no question.
I think there's definitely the possibility.
But he is also prone to turnovers. So is Montour.
I mean, he's basically Gostisbehere, right? I mean, Mete is in a lot of ways. I think.
Yeah, Mete is suffering from a lot of the same things. Montour looks a little better this year to me, but last 2 years he's looked horrible, and I wouldn't give up significant assets for him. I'll tell you that.
Right. The other thing, bring up this thing here. There's Palmieri, especially now with the Anders Lee injury going down on the island. You definitely without Anders Lee, you have a definite situation where you have Lou Lamoriello is looking to fill that spot. Kyle Palmieri is a guy that he really likes, obviously, and he knows him very well. The reality here is that that the Devils are gonna hold up the Islanders for this if this happens, they should, there's no reason they shouldn't. I mean, this is their own division, their own, Devils, the Devils aren't going to make Lou Lamoriello's life easier. There's no
reason to do that. So, it's different ownership, and the ownership didn't love Lou. They let him go. So yeah,
from what I've heard is Fitzpatrick in in New Jersey wants either Bellows or Wahlstrom.
Yeah, I think they would part with Bellows. They would not part with Wahlstrom.
And a pick, maybe a conditional second-round pick, which could become a first if.
Yeah, I think they would do that. I think they would do Bellows in that. I doubt they would do Wahlstrom because he's really clicked for them, and they don't have a lot of guys with the level of shot that Wahlstrom has, an elite shot. If you think about it,
right.
Barzal's not an elite shot guy. Brock Nelson's not even an elite shot guy. He just gets in the right spots and he muscles his way in.
Right.
They don't really have that guy.
Yep.
Yeah, I basically said to Russ earlier that if they don't add, the Islanders are going nowhere. I don't care. I love their defense, their defensive structure, and Barry Trotz can get them to win games in the regular season. But if they don't add to replace the offense they lost with Anders Lee, they're not going anywhere in that division.
They lose a lot more than that.
Replace it.
I mean, they lose basically their heart and soul with Anders Lee. I mean, he's not just their offense. He's their spiritual guide, on that team. That's something that Lamoriello takes those like spiritual guide type places really seriously. This would be the equivalent of Parise getting hurt back in the day in New Jersey.
Sure. It definitely is. But Trotz can overcome that. I agree with Esmer though. I brought up Bodie Wild before. The issue with Bodie Wild is he's a big riverboat gambler, and so they'd have to reel that in. But as far as like physicality and offensive ability, he has definitely some. It's not off the charts, and really good skating. He's got all of that, but he will do some turnovers occasionally. But still, the Devils still need more defense too. So if they feel like in a couple of years Wild could be there, that's not a bad move because by then Subban would be gone.
Is Taylor Hall a fit with the Islanders?
Could be. I mean, it does make sense to a degree. It is a Lamoriello type of trade, I think, to get Taylor Hall and then make a go of it. It reminds me a little bit of like Kovalchuk back in the day. Like this is the kind of guy you go for, and because Lou likes his like really big time grinders and his super skilled players. So there's not like a middle ground. The middle ground players usually don't find a home with Lamoriello teams for some reason.
Kovalchuk is available.
Yes, he is. He will not be rejoining the NHL.
No, I'm just kidding.
But by the way, I mentioned yesterday, you didn't hear it. Derek Jeter's castle is on the market. No, I'm just saying, and it's a bigger place, and it costs more than even Kovalchuk's. Kovalchuk's is small potatoes compared to Derek Jeter's.
I believe that. Where are they both? They're both up in North Jersey.
Yeah, Davy Jones makes a good point here. Hall back with Eberle.
You know where it is, Zach? You know where like Phillipsburg, New York is? It's on the Jersey side where it's very close to New York, and it's like 50 miles from, that's
a beautiful area. No, it's definitely a beautiful area for sure. Hall and Eberle, yeah. I mean, I think that was a good combination at one point.
They definitely were. I mean, that's no question.
That was definitely one of the better nations. I wanted to briefly touch on Krueger. I know you guys talked about it. I'm sure you guys talked about it, but I do. Obviously, we all know this had to happen, but I do like the hiring of Donnie Granato. Like, I think that this is like one of this kind of surprise. I know, but I like the giving Donnie Granato a chance to do this because I think that
he's not going to be the coach.
I know, but I'm just as of now, we don't think he's going to be the coach, but I think that stranger things have happened. I think that I've found Granato to be one of the smarter hockey guys out there. Like there's certain guys that I've met over the years, like Zito. I've mentioned him many times, and now he's having the success. I think Granato's in that world too, and he really has a chance to. I would love to see him with an NHL team. I think it's kind of in a no-lose situation for him right now in Buffalo because it's not like anyone's expecting anything of him. And they don't probably even want them to do super well, because you want to get still a good draft pick.
They would like them to break the 12-game losing streak. Let's just say that. But I mean, Kevin Adams came out this morning and said they're doing a search for a coach that they might even hire this year. So it's strictly he's a caretaker, hold a position in place, get the team to practice, change the mood in the locker room type of guy. He's a professional coach. We know how good he is, but it's not even if they won 8 games in a row, I don't think he's going to be the head coach. No,
I don't think he is either. But I think that I'm really I've been impressed by him. I think he's just a smarter hockey guy than a lot of people realize. So we're gonna find out a little bit about that. And he's also a good motivator. So and he's very totally different personality than Krueger. There has to be some irony, right, that Jeff Skinner scored the last goal of the Krueger era. I think
it was ironic that
there's something about that.
It was ironic that Nathan Bastian and Jeff Skinner got into a scuffle, and Bastian in the penalty box yelling across the way said, you've got the worst contract in the league, or why don't you?
Yeah.
And Skinner came out and scored.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I don't know. It's a tough one,
But the main contributor to that is Ralph Krueger, because he put a guy who was a top 6 forward.
Exactly.
Jeff Skinner has not played well this year, but can you blame him when he gets?
No, but he's terrible. I mean, hockey is a 70% confidence for these guys. I mean, they're all really skilled players. They're all superstars. And they're all own right. They all played. They're all the best players, kids growing up. And if they've got confidence, look out. Like that's what you're seeing in Florida. That's what you've seen other years in different situations. When a team gets confident, when players get confident, the miracle on ice can happen. Anything can happen with confident hockey players. And that's what, and the opposite, of course, holds true with guys who've lost their confidence. Which with Skinner and Taylor Hall. And the guys like that who really have lost their, they've lost that little confidence.
The miracle on ice would be the Sabres making the playoffs next year, and I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yes. What's his name is Stalock is practicing with the Oilers today.
There you go.
So
he's getting ready for his stint on the taxi squad.
He'll get a debut probably this weekend. I was told.
Yep.
Probably
that's
not.
Good.
Not
news,
right away. He'll get in there, and we'll see what happens. We won't get into that discussion at all. Merzlikins is a guy who is also out there. Elvis.
He's too inconsistent. I don't know how many teams would really want him.
He's an interesting one. He's a tempting one. He's tempting for a lot of reasons. I'd be tempted if I was Seattle with him a little bit.
Sure, Seattle. Yeah, I could see that.
I think that because he brings a lot of personality to everything too. He's more than just a goalie. He actually.
Well, they would actually have to trade him because he's exempt.
Right, he's exempt. And they're saying Stalock's practicing with him tomorrow. Yeah, I not today. I get it, but I think that he's set and ready to go.
One of the interesting goalie rumors out there was, and we mentioned Devin Dubnik yesterday. Devin Dubnik in Colorado, and again, I keep saying Colorado has to get somebody behind Grubauer other than Hunter Miska. And it's not an insult to Hunter Miska, but I don't think he's anything more than a third string goaltender. And we don't know what was going on with Pavel Francouz, and obviously if there is some interest there with Colorado in Dubnik, that tells you that Francouz may not be able to.
I think Dubnik's up for them. I've watched some games where he has looked good, and imagine if he had a better defense in front of him. I think that's a pickup that could be one. It's a smart move. Yeah.
It's a really smart move. I think Colorado will go for a goalie like that too, and I think that's because they're they obviously need a steady backup that's not injured, and they need somebody now. They're a cup champion. They have potentially to win the Stanley Cup here. So
okay, Asmir, I don't see the Rangers trading Georgiev.
They're not changing.
No, they're keeping those two goalies.
They have them set up the way they have them set up for a reason, salary wise and otherwise. They are set for I think 3 more years with these guys at least together.
Right. And they don't have to trade one of them because one of them is exempt, so they can protect the other one. And
unfortunately the injuries have hit them obviously, so that's the problem. But
they're not.
That's why Keith Kincaid is there, because Keith Kincaid is the sacrificial lamb in terms of they signed him to a 2-year contract, so he could be the goalie that they qualify for Seattle.
Yes,
Merzlikins is in it, like we said. I didn't say he was going to be taken by Seattle in the draft. I think that we can see that this summer. I know they will try to move Merzlikins at the trade deadline, I was told, but whether or not they find a home for him or not is another case. To me, this is a team that needs a goalie moving forward. Buffalo, Buffalo. To me, I would look at Buffalo. I mean, he's a really interesting goalie in that he if he's confident and if he kind of has the spot and is given a chance to take the job, I think he could do it. I don't think he's had that opportunity yet.
Buffalo's in an interesting position next year, Eck, because Carter Hutton's a UFA, and they'll thank him for his service and say goodbye.
Yeah.
He'll bump him up into the booth. He'll replace Jen Rett.
All right, up in Toronto.
You won't replace Rob Ray because Rob Ray will beat him up.
Right.
When they don't sign Anderson, Hutton will be backing up Campbell in Toronto. That's what will happen.
Yeah, there you go.
He will not.
Nice try. And Linus Ullmark is also a UFA, and I'll tell you right now, I think Linus Ullmark will get a lot of attention from teams because he's a goaltender who probably would sign a 2-year deal at around $3.5 to $4 million.
Yeah, he'll get attention.
I honestly, if the Leafs walk away from Anderson, Linus Ullmark is somebody that I think Kyle Dubas should go after because I think he's a good young goaltender and he's never really played in front of a defense that could play. And the Leafs defense this year has played pretty well, so he would be a good guy to go after. But right now, the goaltending market for next year, everything is going to be tied through Seattle. There are so many goaltenders that could get claimed by Seattle and move to other teams. They're going to be a middleman for so many of these deals. And I don't know if they're limited in how many goaltenders they can take in the expansion draft. I don't think there is a limit.
I don't think there's no limit. But there is a reality to that. I mean, like you have to.
Well, they have to have a goalie.
And the other thing is that you're not limited to the amount of goalies you can take in that draft, but there's also going to be goalies available beyond the expansion draft for them. Like they can easily make trades for or make moves for, or goalies that are just going to be free. There's going to be all these free agents. The free agent class act in terms of goalies is not. That's like I said, Anderson is the best free agent goaltender out there. The second one is Rask, and Rask is probably either not going anywhere or retiring. Then it's Antti Ranta. It drops off. It's an Ullmark. It drops off significantly. My computer just froze, so I can't see you guys at all. So hopefully you can see me. But
yeah, we can see you.
My computer just says loading photos in the middle of it. That's all it says. Lovely. It's just 2 words, tiny little words, loading photos. I don't know why.
Thank you.
It's lovely.
Why don't we end the show right here then, Eck?
There go some of my notes. What'd you say?
Why don't we end the show right here?
Yeah, let's end the show here because I don't have any more notes to read anyway. Thanks, guys, for filling in the beginning. I apologize for that. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.